Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod. I'm thrilled to be here with my good friend Nancy.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good. I'm a little like whoa because we had some water leak in our rainstorm last week, and we have had those ginormous fans in our home now for a week, drying out the wall and ceiling, and I swear I constantly feel like I'm in an airplane hangar. It's so loud. I don't know. You hear about when people lose things in floods. We had a little leak, a little leak.
Yeah.
I mean, and the things that you have to do for a little leak. All week long, I keep thinking about all these people with the floods.
The floods, yeah.
And what they must have gone through. I can't even imagine, because it's your whole life gets turned sideways.
Not to mention the mudslides, what they've had to go through.
Oh my gosh, all the natural disasters this last year, because we're just going to work, doing our thing, trying to make the world a better place, and then something comes in from the side that disrupts, and ours is this little thing, and yet, man, it really puts a crimp in your day.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
It does.
Woo!
Makes you thankful for the times that are calm, right?
Oh my gosh. I honestly have been thinking about all the people who have lost so much in this last year, who literally can't go to work because the place where they work has been taken away by a mudslide or something like that. I mean, we have families up in Santa Barbara that the roads are still closed, and they're saying it's going to take something like 200 miles worth of trucks.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Hard to believe.
A lot going on.
But I'm a little like, because I feel like I'm in a large fan. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, the show was great.
So we have some stories in the news today to talk to you about.
Yeah.
One, which is we've heard before about Texas illegally excluding thousands from special education.
Yeah, well, it's official now.
It's official.
The ruling is in, and I'm waiting to see, because the court ruled that what their policy was, and just so that everybody knows, for a number of years they put a quota on what I don't even know that quota is the right word, but
a target
percentage that was what, 8.7,
8.5%.
8.5.
Yes.
That's how many special ed students there could be at any point at a school.
Regardless of what the reality was, whether in fact there
they just decided,
more.
Well, there's 8.5, instead of looking, and of course we have things like Child Find in place and the Free Appropriate Public Education Act, and when we look across the country, the national average is somewhere closer to 12%.
Yeah, 12%.
So, realistically, Texas choosing just arbitrarily choosing, no, we're going to say that we have 8.5%, meant that kids were being left out.
Well, so they've been called out on it.
Oh, yes, and they've been given a week to come up with a plan.
But here's my question. What about all these kids that were left out of the system?
Well, isn't that an interesting thing? And I suppose it leaves them open to many lawsuits for negligence.
Yeah, because those kids will never get those years back.
No, and since progress is cumulative, I would think that there would be damages.
I would think so too.
So it will be very interesting. Now, Texas, as this was being brought to the forefront, had already decided a few months ago that they were going to change their policy. But as I said, they've been given a week from the federal government to come up with a plan for how to mitigate this. So, and the week is almost up. It's been tick-tock, because this was last Thursday that this came down, and here we are, we're at Wednesday. So they've got like 24 more hours. So let's all keep an eye tomorrow to see what the plan in Texas is. But hopefully it's going to mean a lot more services for a lot of very deserving school-aged kids.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a new robot that's teaching people with autism to navigate office politics.
This story's out of Scotland's Heriot-Watt University.
And really,
they have a robot named Alex, who is a robotic emotion teacher. They say he's not human, but humanoid.
Yeah, and it's interesting because office politics is a very big deal, whether you are on the spectrum or not on the spectrum. But imagine for somebody who's on the spectrum, who's already trying to navigate a lot of other things. They're trying, like anybody else, they're trying to get the job and get the job done once they have it, and get the the praise and that you need in order to move up. Right. But then not only are there all the other social rules in life, but then it was a big thing for me coming back to work in a corporate environment, because I'd been out of that loop for a while. There are office politics.
Lots of office politics.
And
a lot of those you can't read. You've got to read facial expressions for those, and that's a very big part of it. They say that Alex's face, this robot in this story, is simple with very few features. There's a reason why it's humanoid, not human. Human faces generate lots of small extraneous signals that people with autism can find difficult to decode. By contrast, Alex's basic, easily controllable robotic face makes it an ideal teacher of social cues.
And so what they do is a training session with Alex, and that helps the individual to have a safe environment in which to try things out and try to read Alex's minimal facial expressions to help develop that tool of understanding. I need to look and see, did what I say land in a way that is workable. It's a pretty fascinating thing. So we'll look forward to hearing more from Alex. Now, tomorrow on the show, we are going to have somebody who's involved in our next news piece, because there's a very exciting new 2.99 million, wouldn't we just like to say 3 million? And I don't know why they didn't just give $3 million, grant has been given to the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. And the whole purpose is to evaluate their Sense Theater program. This is a program that uses peer models, uses theater techniques, and some really tried and true behavioral techniques to work with individuals with autism. They've already done some studies that have shown that there are huge gains for individuals who use it as opposed to doing nothing. Now they're going to study whether it has gains versus other social interventions. And so they're going to do this at 3 different universities. And we have Dr. Matt Lerner, who's going to be with us tomorrow from Stony Brook, to talk about how he got involved in this, because he's the lead investigator at Stony Brook University.
Stony Brook is one of the universities.
It's one of the universities. So they're going to do it at Vanderbilt, they're doing it at Stony Brook, and they're doing it at Virginia Tech.
Okay.
And so if you live close to one of those universities, you need to go on their website as soon as you can, because they're starting to it's free.
It's a 10-week program.
Yep, and there's 2 different programs that your child could be offered. One of them is Sense, and this is going to be going on for the next 4 years. So they can be in the Sense Theater program, or there is another social skills program that they can be involved in, because they're going to compare them. And the other one is also really wonderful. So, if you feel like your child would benefit from improv and those kinds of things, you might want to put them in the Sense, or you could put them in the other. But it's going to be free. You'll be helping out research, and your kids are going to have access to some really great programs. So again, that's Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech, and Stony Brook, State University of New York, Stony Brook.
And they saw improvements on several measures, including playground behaviors with peers, neuropsychological indicators, and altered event-related potentials in the brain, providing neurological evidence of improved memory for faces.
Yeah.
So that came out of this 10-week study that they did thus far.
It's, I'm so excited about it. I've always said that I think theater is a great tool for everyone. Talk about helping with job skills and that flexibility that we were talking about in the last hour. When you learn improv, you are learning all of those things in a really fun environment with other people, and you're making friends, and it's funny and it's fun. So I think this is really great for our kids. I really, really do. And it's not all individuals who are on the autism spectrum. There are neurotypical peers in the programs also. So it's inclusive. I absolutely love it. But we're going to talk to Dr. Matt Lerner tomorrow. And he's somebody who has a very interesting trajectory with how he got involved in this kind of thing. You remember when we were covering Asperger's or Us?
Yes.
The 4 young gentlemen who are on the spectrum who do comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And they always talk about the fact that there was a camp that they did, and that's how they got together and learned these kinds of things. Well, Dr. Matt Lerner is the one who started that camp in Boston. So a really fun full circle for him that he's the lead investigator at Stony Brook for this. It's really, really thrilling. He's the real deal, so can't wait for you guys to meet him tomorrow. And then our last news story, if you didn't see it, you've got to go, I say even leave us and go watch it online. Do you remember when they did the Night of Too Many Stars? And Carly Fleischman she's amazing. We've had her dad here on the show.
Right.
She's the young woman who is so famous for the fact that she's non-vocal. And when she was 13, they thought there was nothing
going on.
Nothing going on. When she was 13, she grabbed the computer of a person who was a caregiver and typed, "My teeth hurt, please help me." And it was amazing. Nobody knew she knew the alphabet, let alone knew how to type, and she was asking for help. And now Carly, she's helped to author a book about her life.
Right.
She has her own talk show.
She's become a superstar in the autism world.
She's amazing and has done a lot of press. And so Carly has started this new talk show and done some amazing interviews with people that are hilarious.
Channing Tatum is a great one, and James Van Der Beek.
Oh my gosh,
there's
they're
excerpts
hilarious.
from those on the website.
Yes.
If you go to this.
And so then when they did the Night of Too Many Stars, of course it made sense that they were going to have Carly on, and Carly was going to interview and turn the tables on Stephen Colbert, and she was going to interview him. But in the very beginning of the show, they had this poof moment where they had all this paper explode because somebody won something. I don't even remember what that moment was, but all these little confetti papers, little squares of paper rained down on the stage. And of course they had people sweeping them up, but later in the evening, out comes Carly's set, and Stephen Colbert starts the thing, and Carly she has some OCD issues. She started the interview, and she suddenly got up and started picking up the papers off the floor. And everyone watching was like, what's happening? Why? And they were trying to get her back to the desk. She wanted to pick up the papers. And it was one of the most honest depictions of how people that are struggling with autism struggle, because Carly wanted to do that interview.
So this was very instructive,
and she was
really.
ready to do that interview, but the paper, and of course we didn't all know.
Right.
It was live, and we were watching, and they kind of cut away to something else after a few minutes. And then later, Jon Stewart came out and said, "Okay, let me just explain to you what happened. Some idiot decided to have paper explode and didn't think. And this is what we need to rectify. We need to think more often about the fact that that was going to disrupt." But later, Stephen Colbert had this lovely moment with her where he said, "Don't feel bad about it. You did a great job. We'll do it another time." And so this last week, he had her on his show.
So, she is hilarious. Some of her questions she asks are absolutely hilarious.
She's delightful.
The interaction with Colbert is just great to watch.
And, kudos to him. I'm just so impressed with him and Jon Stewart with how they have stepped up. I think it's little known fact that how the Night of Too Many Stars began was because Robert Smigel, who is an amazing comedian, author, producer. He's the Triumph the Insult Dog and worked with all of them on SNL and on their respective shows. He has 2 children who are affected by autism. And so it was something that he said, "Hey, can we do something?" And that's why you see all those first-class comedians.
Right, because they've all worked with him.
And because Robert Smigel said, I need some help. I need an assist here
and
to help other people.
He helps with charities in the New York and New Jersey areas, I believe it funds.
Amazing what their family has been able to do. And they do it all a little on the QT. They don't get any big press for it, but we want to commend them for it. And we want to commend their friends for stepping up and saying, we're going to do this. But I have to say, these gentlemen have gone the extra step. They get it.
Jon Stewart has, and Stephen Colbert has, and many other celebrities that appear on the show.
And there was no way that I think Stephen Colbert was going to let this go. He had Carly on the show. And for me, as a parent, to see, so often we see things, whether it's here or someplace else, where when we take autism out into the mainstream, there are comments that just make you want to put your head in an oven because you see the ignorance. And it just feels like, oh man, are we ever going to get there? But this particular, I urge you to go on, Google it, watch it, and then take a look at some of the comments. I'm sure that there are some boneheaded comments, but there are people saying things like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that a person who was non-vocal could say and interact in this way.
Right.
And you go, there's a little part of you that goes, really?
Well,
where you been?
It smashes a lot of stereotypes.
But look, if that's the work that we need to get done, thank goodness for Stephen Colbert for saying, I'm not going to let this go.
Yes. Our hats are off
Really,
to him. He gets the
really uplifting.
thumbs up for the week.
Yes. The Autism Awareness Award of the Week,
Right.
Stephen Colbert. And of course, Carly, we love Carly.
She's just she's such a kick.
Hashtag Team Carly, man.
Right.
She's amazing. We have to, I know we've offered before to have her on the
Get
show.
on
We
the
got to make
show.
that happen
Yeah, we
because
do.
she's so delightful.
Maybe we can have
Wonderful.
her co-host with us one day.
Let's just let her host
Okay,
one day,
okay.
and you and I will sit in the booth.
Okay, sounds good.
Because she's wonderful. That's what
She
it's
is.
all about, my friends. That's what it's all about. Anyway, so
Okay.
that's our news for today. But we've got a great guest.
Yes, we do. Iris Knightley.
Yep.
And she's going to be talking about her 3 wonderful boys and what those 3 wonderful boys led her to do in terms of writing.
Yeah, great new book. The Three Brother Tears. We're going to be talking about that and ever so much more. So stick with us. We're going to be right back after these messages.
Hello, activist. Let's talk about step 8. State your intention. Conceive it, believe it, achieve it. Author Napoleon Hill wrote that 100 years ago. The Power of Positive Thinking. Norman Vincent Peale wrote that 60 years ago. See, practicing positive focused thought has been around a long time, long before The Secret came about. That's because practicing positive focused thinking really works. Think about when you drive somewhere in your car. You don't just go around in circles. You have a destination, right? I mean, sure, there's going to be speed bumps and detours along the way, but you know where you're going. State what you want to achieve. Say it aloud, write it down. I have Post-its on my computer. One says, get Wyatt all the treatment and therapy he needs to reach his full potential. Step 2, help other families. The focus part is really important because I realize that in this lifetime, I'm not going to be elected president or become a rock star. But I'm doing okay on those first 2 steps. Live in a state of knowing you will reach your goals for you and your child. Until next time, keep the faith.
Hi, my name is Iris Knightley, and I am the author of The Three Brother Tears. I am the mother of 3 wonderful young boys, Barris, Kennyton, and Zachary. My oldest son, Barris, was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. Barris is nonverbal and unable to read or write. One afternoon, I was watching my children play with each other, and I was simply amazed how well my children interacted and understood their older brother, Barris, even if it's not through spoken language. Our journey as a family inspired me to write my book, The Three Brother Tears. I decided to take a pen to paper and write a vivacious and classic story of the 3 young brothers who go on an adventurous journey as they race about outside on a chilly autumn evening where the family dog and the frisky squirrels are transformed into characters within their topsy-turvy escapades. In today's technology-driven culture, computers, tablets, and smartphones often replace the good old days of hide-and-seek, climbing trees, and playing a game of tag. Disconnecting from everyday technology and encouraging my children to engage with their imagination has helped them embrace their brother Barris, regardless of his disability. The story The Three Brother Tears brings to life children's ability to use their imagination, create their own stories, and relate with one another. I decided to launch this Kickstarter to share the Three Brother Tears with all of you. With your help, I will be able to self-publish my book. For every $20 pledge, you will receive the Three Brother Tears before it is released to the general public. This is my opportunity to communicate with others about autism and share the positive experiences that can be created with children who are autistic. I want my readers to learn that with children with autism are capable of meaningful communication. Others must learn to believe that they are capable of living a fulfilling life through various activities, whether through play therapy, social engagement, or life skills. I hope you're inspired to help me in 2 ways. 1, please share this Kickstarter with your friends on social media, including Facebook, Instagram, or even an email. A share is priceless to the success of this campaign. And 2, please make a pledge of $20 and you will get an advanced copy of the Three Brother Tears. Even a small contribution will help us raise awareness.
And we are back, and we now are joined, as promised, by our special guest, Iris Knightley. Hi, Iris. Thanks for joining the show.
Hi, it's very nice to meet you guys. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
We're thrilled to have you on
yes,
the show.
Yeah. We told our viewers that you are the author now of a book called The Three Brother Tears. Can you go back and tell us how that tale kind of started and the inspiration?
Yeah, so in 2008, I started to write down my ideas and stories. I would just watch my children just play together, and I was just simply amazed at how my children would play with their older brother who has autism, and they don't see the label of disabled or autistic or special needs or different. They see their brother for who he is, and that truly inspired me to write The Three Brother Tears, which is a little twist on the Three Musketeers.
So tell us about your children and their ages and tell us about the 3 kids.
I have 3 boys. My oldest son, who's autistic, is Barris. He's 10 years old. My second son is Kensington, which is 9, and my last third son is Zachary, who is 6 years old.
And Barrett is nonverbal?
Barris is nonverbal, and he's unable to read or write, and he's been making some great progress recently, so now we're starting to get little sentences, a little more of a, hi, mom, hi, I love you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, amazing.
That is amazing. Well, you're certainly a beautiful family. I mean, we look at the pictures of all of you, and you're just stunning. The happiness exudes off of the photo, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
And this story, though, you started this back in 2011?
Yes.
And so at what point did you really, because, a lot of people feel like they have something to say. At what point did you say, I've got to do something with this? It can't just sit on the shelf and draw dust. What made you go, I got to get this out to the people?
I noticed when I would go to the parks with my children, whether it was outings to the grocery store, I noticed that children would just stare at my child. Barris has a tendency when he's overstimulated to jump up and down, flap his hands, make certain noises, and children would just stare. Or they would come up to him and try to talk to him because he's nonverbal, and because he wouldn't respond, they would just kind of like walk away and not try to interact. And I felt like seeing my children and how they don't see the difference, I really wanted to put something out there to show that they're just like anyone else, a little different, but just like anyone else, and that little difference makes them just that much more special. So I just felt like, it's really time to really just show that social inclusion and awareness is just so important, and even more nowadays.
Absolutely.
So you went home and you started writing this book.
I did. My kids love pretend dressing up and fighting, and we like to read a lot, so I would do a little summary of the Three Musketeers, and they loved it, and they would have their own little adventures here, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do a tale on the Three Brother Tears and really show the way my children play and how they include their older brother despite his difference, and really just show that how social inclusion is just naturally embraced, and that children with autism are just wonderful, just like any other child.
And you did a Kickstarter to get the funding. I just think you're really clever, Iris, you know? And you did a Kickstarter to get the funding to be able to publish the book. And the book, you got your money. The book is now available as of about a week ago. Is that correct?
Yes. So we did the Kickstarter account just to kind of really kick off and really just reach out to parents who have a child with special needs and not just specifically autism, and just say, you know, I have a cause and I have a story, and I really just wanted to show that there's just so much more to it. So so the book is available as of a week ago, off of now Amazon Kindle, and now hardback and paperback. So I'm really excited.
That's really wonderful. So where do people go to get it in the hardback?
You can go on my website at www.irisnightley.com, or you can also find it on Amazon, and I believe it's available on Barnes & Noble as well.
Okay. And there is a charity portion of
Yes,
this.
there is. Tell us about the charity aspect of this.
So I partnered with Good Dog Autism, which is a nonprofit organization based in San Diego that helps families who have children with autism find a service dog companion. And my son also has a service dog, Milo, which is also a part of the storyline. And I really know the benefits of what a service dog and the difference a service dog can make in a child's life. So I really wanted to partner with a nonprofit who I can personally associate and vouch for as with my son's personal experiences. And
So this is the foundation that you worked with your son to get a service dog?
they are not. The foundation that I got my son's service dog from is no longer running anymore. So we had done some research, and I was looking through different websites, and I just really love the message that Good Dog Autism has. And Laura Sylvester, who is the owner, with the one who runs the organization, also has a son on the spectrum. And there was just so many connections between she and I that I knew that her nonprofit just had everything that I believe and wanted to support. And on the back of the book, it also shows that I'm partnering with Good Dog, and for every book sold, a portion of the proceeds will give back to that foundation to help other families who are trying to have a service dog for their child.
That's great.
It's a remarkable story, just in terms of the fact that we always talk about the power of one on this show, and that sometimes there are moms watching who feel like everything isn't working out. Right? And what do I do? And I want to do something. And we always talk to people about it. Once you include other people into the question, when you're helping somebody else, or that's your motive, I don't know why, but it seems like things get easier. And I think that this is remarkable. You have a bachelor's degree in history, and you're currently getting a master's degree, but I'm just going to guess that it was not part of your plan that you were going to have a child with autism and write a book that was to help the autism community and help the greater community to understand and have social acceptance. But what a great story, Iris, for other parents to see and be inspired by.
Thank you so much. Yes, when Barris was diagnosed with autism, I was actually in the middle of my going to school for my bachelor's in history, and I was just, it definitely, I had no idea what autism was, and it was through this journey that I truly feel that it really shaped and changed me into the person and mother that I am today. So it's just been a wonderful and beautiful experience, and that's definitely what I wanted to show in my book, that having a child with autism can bring so much to you as a person, as an individual, to your family, and it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful experience.
And who do you think is the best audience for this book, Iris?
I think anyone who has a child with special needs, a mother, a father, maybe you have a niece or nephew or a grandchild, anyone who you can relate to. And even if you don't have a child with autism, it's a fun and adventurous and classic story. So, but I truly wrote this book to really reach out to parents who feel that they're alone, because you're not alone. There's so many other parents and a huge community out there who understands you and who really want to support you. And that's definitely what my message was for my book, to the autism community and to parents who understand what it's like to have a child on the spectrum.
And let me, and then I'll let you speak, I
Okay.
promise. I just want to say too that I think it would be a great, sometimes as autism moms, we need to get something for other people's children, our friends who have neurotypical kids.
Right.
What a great gift to give the children, the neurotypical children in your child's life.
Because it teaches them lessons.
Yeah, I think so. What did you want to say, Nancy?
I wanted to ask you if there were plans for other books in this series, or a series of books.
I do plan to continue a series for the Three Brother Tears. I have some other ideas going on that I have. Right now, the boys are transitioning into ninjas. So I've thought, okay, so maybe I could do like a little twist on that with ninjas and just keep it going. And as long as, there's families and children who can enjoy the books, then I will continue to write a series of the Three Brother Tears.
And what are you getting your master's degree in?
History.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I love history, and it's just been a passion of mine, and I just want to continue that and continue to write. I do have other books in mind as well, but I will continue my master's in history.
Well, you're an amazingly positive role model for special needs families everywhere.
And we want to remind people, irisnightly.com, where you can get more information. It is Nightly with an E at the end. But there it is on the screen for you. And Iris, thank you so much for being with us and for all the work that you're doing.
And say hi to your boys for us.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And again, I really appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
What a wonderful guest. We're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and start to wade through some of the questions that you guys have been sending in. So stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back. You're live on Autism Live, and I've got my friend Jennifer here. I'm so excited she's here to help me. She's got a son named Dylan. I got a son named Jeff. We got all sorts of allergy issues. And a lot of you say, what the heck can we do to eat breakfast that's not full of carbs?
And getting my son to eat vegetables.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is a vegetable. So we're going to eat vegetables today. And
All right.
so what we're making is zucchini muffin. So let's go ahead and get started. So we just dumped in our zucchinis. You can start with less. You want to graduate your kid to actually eating healthy. We're going to do some eggs. And again, I use the organic cage-free eggs. So there's our eggs. I'm going to add in our oil. Again, I use a high heat oil. And the reason why I use a high heat oil, because when you bake, you want to make sure you're using an oil that doesn't disintegrate, because when oil gets too hot and it's not meant to get hot, it becomes toxic. So you got to be careful with your oils. So there goes our maple syrup, and again, organic maple syrup. What we're going to add next is cinnamon and our baking soda, baking powder to our mix. There's a lot of variations on flours. A lot of our kids are allergic to wheat, so there's a lot of things we can do to make this SCD, specific carbohydrate compliant, or just gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free. And flaxseed meal. Flaxseed meal is a great resource for extra fiber within the kids' diets. We're just going to turn on this fabulous, wonderful KitchenAid, and we're good. It's a great, great looking batter. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about baking ware. Almost everything is aluminum, and aluminum can be a problem for some kids, especially kids that can't methylate and take the toxins out with their body. But if you've got, like me, I've got muffin tins, so I have the ability to just simply put in some cupcake holders, and that actually holds that together if I want to freeze it. Hey, nice work. Those look good, but wait till you see them when they're done.
All right.
So go ahead and pull them out. Here are the fabulous muffins. Now, if you've got a sensory kid that doesn't like vegetables, I can already I spy the zucchini. Remember what I told you earlier. Resolve that simply by peeling off the green layer, and then it will cook literally translucent. Such a nice golden brown. I love how the texture is. We know that the breakfast can be a challenge. This makes that process a whole lot easier for you and your family. I really appreciate all the feedback. We definitely want to hear from you for our next segment. If you'd like us to cook something or maybe make an old favorite and that's allergy-free, we can do that here on Autism Live. So give us your feedback. You can email us at autismlive@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page like everybody, facebook.com/autismlive. And also you can reach Taka on the Taka website at Taka Now. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining us on Autism Live.
Say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back. We've got a bunch of questions that have been coming in, so we wanted to address some of them. But before we go anywhere with them, Nancy and I want to remind everybody that we are not behavior analysts, and we are not experts in autism. We just want to get that out there. But we can address some of these questions as moms and give our input and questions. Somebody wrote in and said, my nephew is 3 years old. We are from India. He is taking homeopathic since 1 month. But now we are seeing that he's getting nowadays more stubborn and getting aggressive and hitting himself. So much of addictive behavior to mobile. We started GFCF food for him as well. Can't see any improvement. Also, we are doing different therapy for him. Please advise. And I want to say also that Lisa wrote in and said, all my son does is watch the iPad. Please help. So they're both of them. We have this addiction
to iPads.
Yes. And that can be a tough thing. I just want to stop and say, imagine for a moment that somebody picks you up and transports you to another planet, right? And you don't know the language and you don't have any way to get your needs met. Maybe their eyes are in the back of their head. Maybe they have tentacles instead of eyes. So you don't know how to get your needs met, right? And what would you do? If somebody kidnapped me and put me in a dark room and I didn't have anybody to communicate with, I always say, how long would it take you before you threw a tantrum?
Started acting out.
Before you started kicking,
right,
throwing things,
right,
hitting the wall? I bet it would take me less than 15 minutes.
Yeah, probably.
Because I would need to go to the bathroom. I would want something to drink. I would be hot or cold. I'm fussy. I would start to act out. And this is what happens with all children. If you think about it, all children are born and they cry. They come out of the womb and they cry. And we now have narrowed it down to there's like 5 different kinds of cry. Did you know this now with new moms?
No, I didn't know that.
There's a specific cry that's for when you're hungry. There's a specific cry for when you're tired. And they've like done studies on this now that you can listen to your baby and figure out which one is which. That they're uncomfortable temperature-wise, that they need to eat, that they need attention, that they need to be held. Back in our day, the baby cried, we picked it up and we jiggled, we fed, we did, the 5 things. And if that didn't work, you went to the pediatrician and said, why is my baby crying? But the babies cried and we reacted.
Right.
And we set up a communication system, right? Then kids get to the age of 2 and they begin to hear language, neurotypical babies, they hear language and they see that things move faster. So they want to be able to communicate, but they can't. And that, my friends, is called the terrible twos.
Yes.
I want, and I don't know how to get it.
Right.
But I see that you guys have a way of getting it faster, and I haven't figured out the code yet.
Yeah.
And we have terrible twos, and all kids tantrum. Every single one of them, neurotypical and otherwise tantrum. The problem with autism is that if we don't bridge that gap to communication, then the tantrums will continue.
Yes,
by the way, it continues with the neurotypical kids if we don't make them use their words.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
We've all met the kid that the mom never said, use your words, right? And
right.
so they kick your kid to get their cookie, right? Because mom didn't say, use your words. So with kids with autism, it's not enough to say, use your words. We got to get in the trenches and we got to teach
Give them the
some
tools.
kind of functional communication.
Right.
That might be speech. It might be having them talk on an iPad. But again,
if they're nonverbal.
Let's go back to if somebody stuck you in a dark room where you can't communicate with anybody and they hand you an iPad. I don't know about you, but I'd be like, okay, I'm good.
I'm
Leave
going
me
to town
alone.
here. Yeah.
I got my iPad because
You're in
I
that
know how to
world.
communicate with the iPad,
Right.
and it's got stuff that's fun.
So it's so reinforcing. It's like a very reinforcing thing for
and
kids.
if I don't have any other way of connecting with anybody, I mean, I love my phone. I'm a little addicted to my phone. I like to take my phone and play on it, and I look forward to the time of day when I get to sit for a few minutes and play my stupid little game on my phone. Do you have a game that you play on your phone?
No, I don't.
You're too highbrow for that.
No, I'm not too highbrow for that, but I don't have a game.
And you don't play anything on your iPad?
No, I don't.
And some people don't, but a lot of us do. It's addictive. And it's fun and it's relaxing and it reduces stress and sometimes it causes more stress, whatever. But so the thing is, in all cases, when we have anybody who is on the autism spectrum, the first order of business is we have to give them functional communication. We just have to. And we will continue to see aggression and it will escalate until they have functional communication. I call it the magic X when they take data, and please believe me that I'm not a data taker, and I don't even like to look at the data, but there's this magic X thing that on one chart they will have that your child is, what their behaviors are,
Right.
that they're engaged in, hitting and kicking and whatever, and that's way up here, right? And then they will have their communication, and that's way down here on the chart, and there are these two lines that are really far apart, right? But as communication goes up, in exact proportion, those challenging behaviors go down, and it creates the magic X. And when you see that X on your child's data, you know, okay, now we're cooking with gas. Because if you give them the functional communication, they don't have to throw the tantrum. The reality is it takes more energy to throw the tantrum than to say on an iPad, I want juice. But if you don't know how to do it, you will throw the tantrum. It's just common sense, right? So, for the 3-year-old, and I hear that you're doing the GFCF, which I think is a good place to start. Yes. I really am of the school of thought, I know, and I will tell you honestly that not every kid sees an advantage from it. Some kids see almost an immediate. Some it's much more progressive. But what do you think, Nancy? I say give it a college try for a year.
I say keep trying it. It helped my son enormously.
Helped my kid.
I know that without it, he was a mess. And,
my kid too. But how long would you say people should try it before they go, look, it's not making a difference?
Well, I think you have to really try it for a long period of a fairly significant amount of time.
I tell people a year. I mean, I think the least amount of time that you should try for, and I mean doing it really succinctly with no challenges, would be 6 months.
Right. I've heard of a lot of parents who say they tried it, it didn't do any good, but they didn't really try it. They really didn't do it in a pure way.
You got to do it. You got to really give it the college try. And I will say that I benefited from somebody else's mistake. When we tried it, and first we got rid of the gluten, and then a couple of weeks later we got rid of the milk, which is not how I would do it, honestly, but I didn't know. And we saw such a tremendous difference. First with the gluten and then with the milk. Oh my gosh, the behaviors, when we got rid of the milk.
The milk for us was a big one too. The dairy had more of an effect on Wyatt than the gluten.
Well, the gluten affected Jem's speech. When we got rid of the gluten, before he had lost all of his functional communication, we got rid of the gluten, and within 5 days of getting rid of the gluten, he was adding 5 words a day to his vocabulary.
That's amazing.
It was miraculous, right? But we were still having tantrums.
And you attribute that to the diet.
I do, and here's why. And then we took him off the milk, and then his behaviors lessened, and then so that made more words happen. But we got about 2.5, 3 months in, and we were going to the YMCA right before they kicked us out. Right? Don't even get me started talking about that. But still holding a grudge. But anyway, I took him to drop him off at the child care,
right,
so that I could go work out. I had this idea that I was going to work out. And we'd only done this a couple of times. I dropped him off, and he had a little tag that I would pin on him that would say, do not feed, because he's allergic to everything, is what I said to them, but we were doing the gluten-free, casein-free. And so I went to go get on a machine, and I'm, doing the treadmill, whatever, and 15 minutes later, they come and get me, and they're like, you got to come in. He's like turned into a wild animal. And I went in, and my son he was, and the snot and tears and everything, and that he apparently had thrown something at a child, and I didn't even recognize him. And I was like, what happened? And they were like, we don't know, but you got to take him home.
And had they given him something
to
eat?
Wait for it. So I take him out to the parking lot, and I'm so upset, and I'm like, what happened? And I was thinking, I haven't seen this kind of behavior in a really long time since we took out, maybe that gluten-free, casein-free diet isn't working. And I thought it was like such a good thing. And I go home, we spend the weekend at home, and he kind of calms down by Sunday. And Monday we go back to the YMCA, and I'm not 5 minutes, they say you got to come and get him. He can't come anymore. And I'm in tears and embarrassed and mortified and feel like this is going to be the rest of my life, right? And I go out to the parking lot and he won't even let me hold on to him. I'm trying to get into the car, and one of the boys that worked there, one of the workers, came up to me and he said, I don't mean to interrupt, but your child isn't supposed to be fed anything, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I don't know whether this means anything or if this has to do with what's happening right now, but they fed him pretzels on Friday. And I said, who fed him pretzels? And it was somebody, the director of the program. And he said, I watched her feed him a whole, big Ziploc thing of pretzels. And he said, and then his behavior changed like that. So I don't know if that could have anything to do with it. I hugged that young man. He left the YMCA and then started working at the health food store. And I would see him on a weekly basis. And I would always say to him, you might have saved our lives. Because I was like, it's not worth the work if it's not preventing this stuff. But, and let me just tell you though, I think of that as being a gift all the time. Now at the time, I was so furious. Oh my gosh. But I think of it as a gift because I would never have done a challenge. I would never have fed him a bunch of pretzels to see if my kid was going to change into this seething little person that he was. I would never have done that. But you know what? It was a really good thing that they did it because he told me. So
you, that was your proof that this was definitely something that was working, and that if you had an infraction, it was going to cause some major issues.
And we are still gluten-free, casein-free. Like 5 years ago, my mother was visiting, and I was flying to a conference that she had come to help take care of Jem, and I wasn't even to the airport yet on the plane, and she fed him gluten and cheese. And I was like, really, Mom?
People tend to think that this is no harm doing this little
well,
bit.
that wasn't it. I had labeled something in the freezer for her and Jim. But you see, I named my son Jem, and my mother looked at it and thought it said Jem. And she said, this is gluten-free. It's fabulous. And I said, what? What are you talking about? She goes, this baked ziti. And oh, yeah, you're not feeding that to Jem, are you? What are you doing, Mom? And lost my mind. But he had hives. He broke out in hives. He didn't have behavior, but he broke out in hives.
Why gets gastrointestinal problems if he has dairy? It's like instant diarrhea, the whole.
Good times, not. Right?
So I think the moral of our story is we're saying try to stick with this
a while longer. But then you got to look at, I hear that you're saying that that your child is getting other therapies, but if they are not doing something that's proven and effective for getting functional communication, that aggression is going to continue to mount. And he's 3 right now. 3 is the perfect window to be doing an ABA program, doing 40 hours of ABA. That's what's shown to be effective. That's what my kid had. That's what Nancy's kid had.
Mine had 30 hours a week of ABA.
Well, but anything, they say the window is 25 to 40, and then others say 30 to 40. I say do 40, and if you can't get 40 on your own,
you can go on skills.
Do 40 on your own. An IBT will help you to train, but skillsforautism.com, it's the same curriculum that our kids had, but that's what's going to help with that. So that would be my advice. That's what works, but I would stick with the GFCF diet. Now, for the other mom, when we're talking about when kids are addicted to the iPads, let's talk about that a little bit.
How to get a replacement in there. It's got to be more rewarding than the iPad is the problem.
Or it's either got to be more rewarding, or it's got to be something that they can't do the iPad and that at the same time. And you got to be strategic and think, one of the things that I love about ABA is that it's not, step 1, step 2, step 3. It's like a creative toolbox. And you get to kind of be a Sherlock Holmes detective and go, what could this be and what might it be? So, and then you pull out tools to use to try to figure it out. But if somebody is doing something with an iPad and you hand them their favorite stuffed animal, now within a few seconds, if the child really loves the stuffed animal, they're going to take the stuffed animal. Within a few seconds, they're going to stick it under their arm and hold it while they're doing the iPad, right? They're going to figure it out. So you really have to stop and think about, what does my child love? and what would be competitive with the iPad. And then you want to keep the iPad, if it's really reinforcing, you want to keep the iPad as a reinforcer and or the time that you most need it, right? So you're going to go on a little bit of an iPad diet. But if you just legislate it and go, well, we're only doing the iPad in the car, oh my gosh, you're going to see tantrums to end all tantrums. Why would you do that to yourself? But maybe your kid loves going swimming. Well, guess what? You can't go swimming with an iPad. So what you might do for the first week is clear your schedule from everything else so that you can get them a little bit pulled off of it, give them a little bit of period of time in which, and you just go, so it's Monday and you go, we're going to the community pool or we're going swimming all day. That's if they love swimming. If it isn't swimming, you figure something else out that is competitive, that the kid will really, maybe it's going to an amusement park, right? Or whatever the fun thing is.
It sounds like a lot of work, Shannon.
Okay, but is it more work? And thank you for saying that. Is it more work than battling over the iPad?
No.
If you had to set aside 4 days and say for 4 days, I'm going to push and I'm going to do something wild and crazy that's really exciting, and at the end of it, what we're going to have is a schedule with the iPad and we're not going to fight over the iPad anymore, wouldn't it be worth it? That's so much of what ABA is. It's a lot of work. Let's not mince.
Right.
It's a lot of work, but it pays off in better odds than anything I know of. If you put the work in little increments and say, I'm not working on anything else right now except the addiction to the iPad, I'm going to create a diversion. We're going to laugh, and I'm going to, plan it all out 4 days. And the only time he gets the iPad is when he's in the car being transported to these places. What you'll find is, don't make the mistake of on day 5 being so exhausted yourself that you just hand them the iPad because you need a break, right? Maybe you taper it off and have something exciting to do and create other things that aren't as reinforcing but still reinforcing, like finger paints. There are lots of things that you can do. There's every single Smartie that we've ever done. All kinds of things that you can do that compete with the iPad. It's hard. I have a child who loves technology,
Yeah.
but we, over the years, we've had to keep changing and go, what can we possibly, I was so worried, sorry about that. I was so worried because over the break I was sick and I was just like, ugh. And my son just got a VR system and he was full on in that VR world and playing and, way more than I would have allowed. And I thought,
Right.
oh, this is going to be a nightmare going back to school, but he's on his robotics team. And 3 days before school started, we had to drop him off for a 10-hour robotic day. And I thought he's not going to make it. But robotics was so much more reinforcing. And, he's thrilled to be doing it. So you keep having to balance, but you can get them to the point where the iPad is just in those specific increments when they've done something great or when you need it, like in the car, or when something is happening and you need to calm them down. It will take some work, but you can do